Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Now, one of the questions I get all the time when people are starting their health journey is, how do I get rid of this belly fat? Especially during the summertime where everybody want to be summertime fine. And what I will tell you is that the solution to that problem is $1 billion solution. When I tell you one of the primary reasons that people go to the doctor, the reason why people are getting surgeries is because people are trying to figure out how to get fat off of their body. And what I will tell you is that the reason why that industry is a booming industry is because there's no true solution in modern medicine, okay? Now, there's always been a solution on the traditional medicine side. When I say traditional, I'm talking about the natural medicine side, but modern medicine really doesn't have an answer for it. At least not an answer that is healthy. I know that people used to come pick up prescriptions for Adipex, and now people are getting prescriptions for a drug called Ozempic. And can you lose weight with these drugs? Yes. But what's important to know and understand that there's always a cost. No drug is without side effects. And so I would implore you to do your own research when it comes to those drugs, because again, no drug is without side effects, which means that there's always a cost to pay. And what I always tell people is that quite often what you're doing with drugs is you're manipulating the biochemistry instead of correcting the biochemistry, which means that ultimately in the long run, you're going to end up right back where you started. And this is what we see with most people who either go on a diet or who take a drug. Quite often they do lose the weight, but often in a matter of a year, they've gained it all back, in many cases, even excess weight in addition to what they had before they even started the drug or the diet. And so this is why I always tell people, it's not a diet, it's not a drug, it's a lifestyle that is going to work. And so what we're going to talk about today is what are the causes of why so many people have belly fat, and why is it so damn difficult, okay, to get rid of. I talked a little bit about this in another video where I talked about some foods that can help, but today we're going to really dive into what are some of those causes today, okay? Because again, if we look 300-400 years ago, the answer was very simple as to why somebody had excess body fat on them. They ate a lot. And quite often, when you saw somebody who ate a lot, it was because they had the resources. They were abundant. They were of royalty. You know, they had high positions in society. And as a result, they had access to food. Well, today, we don't really have those barriers to food that we had 300-400 years ago, even 100 years ago. Today, you can walk into the supermarket. Today, you can go to a fast food restaurant, and voila, within a matter of seconds, you have a meal. When for thousands of years, humans had to scavenge, hunt, grow their food, and now we just at a whisk of a popping through a drive-through, we can have food. And so because of that, in addition to how our food has been industrialized, which you'll learn in today's video to some extent, that is why we not only have belly fat, we also have so much body fat as well too. Okay, so let's get started without any further ado. Number one, the reason why people have so much body and belly fat is because they're overfed and malnourished. What that means that they're eating a lot, but they're not getting a lot of nourishment with the food that they're eating, because the unfortunate thing is that the food is high in calories, but it's very low in nutrients. Okay, and unfortunately, the standard American diet, which is the diet that most Americans eat today, including other countries, the unfortunate thing about it is 70% of it is processed, which means that you're not even eating real food. And the unfortunate thing is the vast majority of American food is banned in other countries, okay? And it's banned because of those food chemicals and how that food is processed, refined, and prepared, okay? The other thing that is a real issue with the overfed and malnourished is that a lot of people are drinking their calories, okay? A lot of the sugary beverages, okay, in the form of teas, in the form of juices, okay? And I'm not talking about green juices, I'm talking about the things that you call a juice at the grocery store, but it's not a juice because they've added sugar to it. It wasn't taken from plants. It wasn't taken from fruit. And so a lot of people are drinking their calories in the form of juices, in the form of Coke Zeros, those 0-calorie sodas that people think don't add calories, don't add sugar, but it adds weight to the body, and people don't know that. So a lot of people are drinking their calories in the form of alcoholic beverages as well too. So it's so important to understand that when you're not eating a nutritious diet, you're going to be overfed and malnourished. And that is ultimately going to lead to your body producing body fat, okay? Really as a stress response. Because the body thinks that, hey, I'm eating all this food, I should be getting a lot of nourishment, but I'm not because the food is poor. Even though they said that it's been enriched, it had to be enriched because it was poor. And it's poor because it's been processed and refined. And the process of processing food or refining food removes all of the fiber and all of the nutrients from it. That's what makes the food poor, and that's the reason why they have to then go back and enrich and add in synthetic vitamins and minerals that your body can't even recognize. So that's one of the number one reasons, because the body is now in this trick state. Like I ate a lot of calories, I drank a lot of calories, but there's no nourishment. There's no magnesium here. There's no potassium here. There's no fiber. There's no vitamins. There's nothing in this food that I just ate. Well, this food doesn't have fiber. It doesn't have hydration, because when you think about plants, you can juice them. When you think about fruits, you can juice them. Okay? They have hydration in them. But foods that have been processed and refined have no hydration. You'll notice that there's a big difference between a grape and a raisin, the dehydration of that. Even when you eat something like a raisin that is healthy, it's important for you to know and understand that your body has to rehydrate that raisin into a grape before it can then be processed. Okay, so it's so important that we know and understand that the way we're eating today goes totally against how we've been eating for hundreds of thousands of years. So when you eat this food that is so nutrient poor, the body not only can't use it for nourishment, the body can't even eliminate it because it doesn't have fiber to be eliminated through our bowel. Okay, we can't even eliminate it because it doesn't have the things required to eliminate it. So the body just says, I have to stick it somewhere. I'm going to stick it in the form of fat. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, we eat so much sugar. So much sugar in the form of, see, when people think of sugar, people think, that granulated white crystals that is being sprinkled into everything. I'm not just talking about that sugar. I'm talking about the refined carbohydrates that people are eating. People are eating massive amounts of breads, pastas, pastries, pizzas, grains, white rice. All of this turns into sugar in the body. Not to mention that the sugar that they're adding into all of the processed foods, there's over 75 different names for that. I talk about this in my book, Education Over Medication, where I give you like 54, 55 of them. But they're putting so much sugar in food because they know that sugar is addictive to the brain. The more you eat it and you taste that sugar, the more you're going to like it. This is why they put sugar in ketchup. This is why they put sugar in salad dressing. They know if you just use regular stuff in salad dressing, they're like, well, they're not going to eat that. But if I put some sugar in it, they'll love that salad. You understand? So like we eat so much sugar, 152 pounds of sugar every year. The average American eats, okay? And sugar is converted into fat. Excess sugar is converted into fat, and excess sugar stimulates excess insulin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone, the hormone that tells our body store fat, store particularly belly fat, okay? So we eat a lot of sugar in the form of refined carbohydrates, but also granulated sugar. And that is one of the primary causes of why we're so fat, because it's not only the food itself, but what the food is doing to our bodies, triggering it to increase the amount of insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, okay? Number three, All of that leads to insulin resistance. That means that the insulin that is being triggered from our pancreas to be released in the body doesn't work the way it needs to work. And the more, now we have to produce even more of it, okay? Because now it's not even working the way it should work. So we have to produce even more of it, which is telling our body even more to store belly fat and to store, fat just in general on the body. Okay, so insulin resistance is a major issue as to why we not only have fat on our bellies, but on our bodies, because the food that we're eating, the lifestyle that we're living is causing us to become insulin resistant to the point that the insulin doesn't work as well as it did in the beginning. And now we're having to trigger even more insulin. So give you just an example. Whereas before we needed 25 insulins to have for this meal, the same meal, now later on, because we're insulin resistant, now we need 100. Okay, so the more insulin we have to create in our bodies, the more it's going to impact not only the amount of fat that's on our bodies and in our bellies, but also insulin impacts our heart as well too. Okay, so you'll notice that people who have diabetes, 80% of them end up having a heart attack, okay, or a stroke. All right, number 4, a sedentary lifestyle. You have to understand that our ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years not only worked outside, they lived outside, okay? They did manual labor throughout the day, all day, moving, okay? Now we just sit down at desks in these curled over positions with our guts and our bowels being impacted on each other, crushing itself, okay? Never staying upright, losing our posture, losing our muscle content, okay? Because we're not moving around. When we went from an industrialized society, manual work, manufactured jobs, to now desk jobs, okay? We lost a lot of our exercise. We lost a lot of our ability to be outside, our ability to be active, our ability to be in the sunlight, to be in nature, etc. Because most people 100 years ago worked on farmland, outside somewhere. Okay, so as a result of our sedentary lifestyle, we just don't move like we used to. We're not exposed in nature. We're not carrying things. We're not walking in places anymore. When's the last time you said, you know what, I'm just going to walk to the store? Not for exercise. Like, you have to understand that our great-grandparents they walked generally across town. I remember growing up, I'm not that old, but I remember growing up walking across town to go see my grandmother, walking across town to go play basketball with another neighborhood in my city. Kids don't do that. Kids don't even have recess anymore. So we're starting out from the cradle to the grave, no movement, okay? Whereas if you go back and look at some of the videos in the 1950s and 60s, some of the things that they were doing in physical education, aka PE, like these kids look like they were training to go to the military, to go to war. Doing chin-ups, push-ups, squats, like 50, 100 of them. If you ask the kid to do 10 push-ups today, you might end up on the news. So, our sedentary lifestyle is why there's so much body fat on our bodies and our bellies, okay? Number 5, actually, stress. We stress for reasons that are beyond me today. Gossip, the news. I don't even watch the news anymore. There's nothing positive about the news. Everything is it's like a horror film watching the news. But we're in a constant state of stress about things that are not actually stressful. Now, I know that is very subjective, but what I'll tell you is that when our bodies are in a state of stress, it triggers our bodies to have a stress response. When you have a stress response, you're going to create stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, etc. It's so important that you know that when you're in a constant state of stress, it's going to tell your body to store fat, not only on your in your belly, but also on your body. Okay, so also being stressed, not managing our stress the way we need to. There's a reason why there's so much, fat on our bellies and our bodies today. Okay, again, a lot has changed. They changed our food. They changed how much kids are moving in schools today. They changed so much about, our society and how we work today. So much has changed during this time, and we just haven't caught up to how much has changed. And so as a result, like, we're unfortunately, looking at by far the most obese and overweight nation that has ever existed. Okay. Number 6, deficiencies. Okay. When you are deficient, as I said before, number 1, malnourished or overfed but malnourished. Okay. Overfed but malnourished. You eat a lot. I mean, I even see a lot of people, and this is a big misconception. A lot of people think that people who are overweight, a lot of them think that people are just overeating. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people who are overweight, they don't even eat that much. Okay, so most of that is just accumulated waste and toxicity in the body. So it's not always an overfed issue, but the issue then becomes when they do eat, they're still not eating a nourishing meal, so they're still deficient. They're still malnourished. Okay, and deficiencies will make you overweight as well too, namely vitamin D, okay, and also vitamin B12. And here's the crazy thing: the more body fat you have on your body, that body fat will actually suck up and absorb all your active vitamin D, so you won't even be able to use it in the first place. So not only does the deficiency that is caused by the eating habits lead to a vitamin D deficiency, but also the fat itself will lead to you becoming even more deficient. Okay, and most people don't know that. Okay, but vitamin D deficiency, and then especially in our community, our sisters, when you think about Black women, African American women, the unfortunate thing is that a new statistic came out, and this was shocking to me, but 4 out of 5 African American women are either overweight or obese. 4 out of 5. That means that if we're in a room of 10 people, 8 of them are either overweight or obese. Now, again, I want to make this emphasis. You can be overweight, but not necessarily unhealthy. I'm actually overweight. I'm 6'2", I'm 200 and around 18 pounds. So I would be considered overweight. But when you look at my body composition and you look at my body fat is somewhere around about 12%. And so when you think about that, that's not necessarily overweight, but it's based on a standard. Okay? But the issue that I'm talking about is the people who have a composition of their body that a large majority of it is fat. And when I say a large majority, I'm talking about upwards of 20 to 31%. And if you're obese, it's above 30% or better, 31% or better when it comes to obese, meaning the composition of fat in your body. Okay, and it's so important to understand that fat in the body not only creates deficiencies, but fat in the body also creates imbalances as well too. So the more fat you have in your body, it will create an enzyme called aromatase. Okay, aromatase will, for men, convert their testosterone into estrogen. Okay, so it'll take the testosterone that a man needs and convert that into estrogen. Okay, ultimately causing him to have a belly, to underdevelop muscle. Even if he works out, he won't be able to develop muscle. Okay, so even excess body fat can also cause imbalances as well too. Okay, so it's so important to understand correcting deficiencies through proper nutrition is very important. And I'm not just talking about deficiencies in the terms of nutrition, but also deficiencies in sleep. When you're not getting adequate sleep, that also could lead to you having excess fat on your body and your belly, okay? Also, when you're not getting enough fiber in your diet. And fiber only comes from plants, so you're not eating enough plants. According to statistics, 50% of the plants that Americans are eating is white potato, which has no fiber and really no nutrients in it. Okay, so a lack of fiber, a deficiency in fiber, also a deficiency in water too. Not enough people are drinking water. That's one of the questions I always ask people when I work with them. How much water do you drink today, or how much water do you typically drink? They're always deficient. They're always dehydrated. Okay, and people just don't understand. Our bodies are made of roughly 70 to 80% water. It's probably important that you drink water. So when you're dehydrated, you're in a state of emergency. Okay? So it's so important to know and understand that deficiencies are one of the reasons why we have so much fat, not only on our bellies, but also our bodies. Okay? Number 7, which I just talked about, poor sleep. So I won't belabor that one, but when you get inadequate sleep, it will cause your body to be stressed. When your body is stressed, it will produce cortisol. Cortisol is a fat storage hormone. It will tell the body to store fat because the body doesn't know the difference between a true stress, you're running from a lion, okay, you're held at gunpoint, or you haven't gotten enough sleep, okay? So when the body thinks it's stressed, the body isn't looking on the outside to see what's going on. It's just going by how you interpret your life experiences. So if the body thinks it's stressed, it's gonna say, well, we're stressed. It's probably because we don't have food available. It's a famine. So let me store some food for later. Storing food for later means storing fat. Okay, so poor sleep will also lead to our bodies not only storing fat on our bellies, but also our bodies, okay? Number 8, unhealthy microbiome. When you have dysfunction and you have an issue with the bad and the good bacteria, okay? That ratio of good to bad is off, okay? When it comes to bacteria in your gut, you will also have issues with weight, okay? Maintaining a healthy weight. Because a lot of the good bacteria in your gut are responsible for actually helping you maintain a healthy weight. So if you look up, they're now having what are called fecal transplants, okay? And they've done this in twins. So they have 2 twins. One is slightly overweight or obese, and then the other one is lean. And all they do, they don't change the diet, they don't change how much they exercise. All they do is take literally the feces from the lean twin, the twin who is, a healthy weight, and do a transplant into the twin who is actually overweight. And they saw, through that simple transfer, that twin started to get slimmer, okay? So we know that the healthy gut bacteria is also responsible for helping us maintain a healthy weight as well. Okay, number 9, hormonal imbalances. I talked about this earlier, specifically with men. When you have a lot of a lot of body fat, it will create an enzyme that will convert your testosterone into estrogen. Estrogen will cause men to gain weight. Same issue with women. When you're overproducing estrogen as well. Okay, so let's say you're not overproducing it. Let's say that you're taking a pill in the form of a birth control pill that adds more estrogen. What you'll notice is one of the side effects of taking birth control pill for many women is they gain weight. Okay, so hormonal imbalances will also cause not only your belly, but your body to gain fat as well too. And number 10, and our final one for today, is toxicity. The more toxins you put in your body will not only hold on to fat, because many of those toxins are endocrine disrupting toxins, which are ultimately xenoestrogens or fake estrogens. Okay, again, goes back to the hormone issue. But a lot of those toxins that when they come into the body, they disrupt the hormonal system or the hormonal balance. Okay, a lot of those toxins ruin the microbiome or that good gut bacteria. Okay, a lot of those toxins are so toxic that the body is trying to figure out what to do with it. And the perfect place to put toxicity When the liver is overburdened with it, when the body is overburdened with it, is in fat. And we know that to be true because we've done studies by the environmental work group, and they've done biopsies of the fat from our bodies, and they've always find toxins prevalent in the fat in our bodies. As a matter of fact, when it came to adults, they found over 150 toxins. Okay, and when it came to babies, before they even come out the womb, they found over 200 toxins passed on from the mother to the child before they were even born. Okay, and that goes to the whole conversation around, you know, the whole childhood obesity epidemic that, you know, when Michelle Obama was in office, that Michelle Obama was really pushing this issue because childhood obesity has exploded. Childhood diabetes type 2, which used to be adult onset diabetes because only adults got it, but now you're seeing that explode too. Okay, it all goes back to all of the things that I talked about before. Thanks for watching this video, but be sure to check the next video out that's right here. But everything I talk about is how do we take a holistic and natural approach to healing other than a man-made approach? And also, how do we prevent dis-ease in the body as well too? Because, you know, they say